So many things.
So many things. What?
It's just tricky.
Tricky. You walk around,
that's right on top.
Tricky.
Crafts, but I feel like we could talk about that for literally hours.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
hello!
Welcome to our next Samhain episode.
Samhain part 2.
Samhain part 2.
Enough.
It's really not.
No.
It's really not.
We could do like 50 Samhain
We
episodes.
probably could. We won't, but we probably could. Well, first off, we want to give a little shout out to our patrons. Yes.
We have in our waning moon tier, Miss Shayla. Thank you.
And then our full moon tier, we have Miss Sandra. So we are so appreciative of both of you guys. Can't wait to meet you in person. Well,
via Zooms.
Via Zooms.
And Big Nose. I'm really excited. Ooh, too excited.
Too excited. Too much excite.
We just launched our website today.
Yes, we did.
Boom.
Yes.
Boom.
So our website is hearthflamecraftworks.com. When you go there, you can connect to our Patreon. You can connect to our YouTube.
And our shop.
And our new shop. So patrons have early access right now.
Yes.
By the time you see this episode, it will be launched for everyone, though.
You can see all of the goods we have to offer this Samhain season.
All of the things that we have crafted and toiled and gotten up early in the morning and been working on.
Yes.
So
very excited. Yes. And keep an eye out for every season. We're going to have a new shop release that will have different crafts, everyday items, ritual items, maybe even clothing to come.
Yes.
So like custom made orders. So exciting things to come in the future. So keep an eye out on that.
And we're so excited for you guys to see it and tell us what you think. And it's been a labor of love and a dream come true for Alyssa and I. So skull.
Boop, boop, clink, clinky, clink,
Clinkety clink clink.
Alright, so in Samhain part 2, we ended our last episode with we should talk about crafts, but then we were like, if we talk about crafts,
we do not have enough time.
We're going to talk about crafts for a very long time. So that's going to be part of this episode.
Yes, a big part of this episode.
What are you creating for Samhain?
So for Samhain, for me, I'm going to be doing a pumpkin protection spell. Yes, and I'm really excited about it.
Tell me more.
So basically what I'm going to be doing is carving a pumpkin. Well, one, I'm going to obviously carve out the pumpkin.
Yes.
Carve it out. Scoop it out.
I was thinking birth.
The pumpkin. Going to be, obviously herbs are a huge part of my practice, like I've talked about before. So I'm going to use a blend of protection herbs on the inside of the pumpkin. And then obviously I'll carve it out and everything like that and use a lot of intention in my practice. I'll probably meditate with the pumpkin for a little bit, just a little quiet time.
Snuggle it.
Like just snuggle
Get real
it.
close.
And then use that on my front stoop for a while and just let my pumpkin protect my home and my abode. What about you? What's up? What are you planning on?
Well, in that same sense, wards, I feel like, are a very important part of this time of the year. Because we've just moved from all of this, like, really bright abundance to now we kind of have to, like, come in and protect not just ourselves, but also home and hearth and, you know, just really creating a space that you can kind of be in the womb is what I think of, you know, like the home is very much your womb during those winter months that you are really growing and evolving in different ways. You're working on shadow work, you're working on different aspects of your practice that aren't so out and active. So wards for me, resetting those. Railroad spikes is something that I use and that you use as well. So resetting those like physical barriers, as well as I want to make more. I do in my living room after I clean my house. I have concrete floors, so I'll pull up the rugs, mop everything down, and then use sigil chalk, which we talked about in previous episodes, to do sigil work within my home. But I also want to do more I don't want to say ornamental wards, but ornamental wards, you know? Like, I want to be able to have more space on the outside of my home that I dedicate to protection. And so creating things, honestly, I'll probably just get in the dirt and collect sticks and vines and, you know, parts of my plants that, like, when my garden starts phasing out, when I cut things out of it to put in my winter garden, because I don't have that much space, so I have to, like, physically rotate them. Last year what I did is I took everything, braided it all, dried it out, and created a wreath. So I want to take some of that material, not necessarily to create a wreath, but to weave different sigils in with the plant material to hang around the home. So I'm excited for that.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's such a beautiful idea. Yeah. And I told Alyssa this too whenever we were crafting a bunch of our stuff for our shop. I was working with a lot of herbs for my shop releases. And I accidentally inhaled like quite a bit of wormwood.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, I could like taste it in my throat. And if you've tasted wormwood, like you know what it tastes like. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the rosemary was speaking to me and like putting runes out on my fucking work table. And I was like, I need to go outside for a little bit.
I have a wormwood right now.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, and I also like I don't like pulling things out of my garden, and I never throw anything away, like in the actual garbage, but I have this specific, Tori knows my dump pile that's by the fence, that any plant material, food waste, etc., all goes out there. Not necessarily to compost, because I'm not in the position that I'm able to like properly rotate compost and do things. That's a whole other world that we could talk about for days and days and days, but I don't like wasting plant material that I don't have to waste. And it's offered me so much protection and abundance throughout the spring season that why would I just be like, okay, I'm done with you when we still have that working relationship.
Absolutely.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, no part of me like feels good about abandoning a plant that has given you so much. Yeah. So I think like, you know, for me, I've harvested a good bit of my like spring stuff already. And dried them, and I've been working on making tinctures with them as well, because I don't want anything to go to waste. And you know, I'll continue doing that through this season. Whatever is done, I'll make sure that I'm using it in my practice. But I think that's a beautiful thing, is to use them, you know, to make wards. You mentioned this before, using railroad spikes is a big part of like my protection magic as well. So I'll be laying those out on Samhain, and you know, I like to go a little hardcore with my like protection stuff, and a little old school, you know, like a little pee, a little blood, like just a little bit of everything. Exactly. So I'll be doing that on Samhain for sure. But I also like the idea, like talking about like wards and sigil work and everything. Using sigils were places where you don't really think about using them, like behind a mirror, to help you see yourself the way you are. Like there's so many different things. Clothing
tags. Bottoms of shoes.
There's so many ways that you can use sigils in your practice, not just on Samhain, but anytime, just to help like keep your practice a part of your everyday.
And it doesn't have to be protection per se. It can be any sort of part of your work.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're clumsy, like a sure-footed rune on the bottom of your shoe. You know, there's so many different ways that you can use them.
And I know that even like when I'm doing tea, I will draw honey at the bottom of the glass. Sigils with honey at the bottom of the glass, especially when we're talking about like ancestor connections and divinations. Like if there is a sigil that you craft and create to work with specifically one ancestor, to call them and say, I want to commune with you on this day, or any day really. Creating a sigil that specifically is for them and crafted for them, and using that to sit down and have tea with them, you know?
I love that idea. Yeah, because I give my ancestors a cup of tea every morning. So
I'm pointing at your ancestor.
I know, they
wish
can't
they could see it.
I know.
We'll take pictures.
Yeah, we'll turn it around and let you see. Or if you are a Patreon.
I
actually did a piece on ancestor work for the newsletter, so you can have access to that.
Which was beautifully written, y'all.
Thank you.
Beautifully written. So check it out.
Check it out.
So check it out.
But yeah, obviously ancestor work is a huge part of Samhain for me. And we talked about that a little bit last episode in terms of like dumb supper, and everything like that. I'm planning on doing taking some time aside in the morning and doing a really like thought out ancestor meditation, ancestor work, just to go ahead and like put it out there that I'm waiting for them, looking for them. And hopefully that opens the door a little bit more for them to come in on the actual dumb supper night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really just going to sit down and I'm going to meditate with them, and I'm going to, you know, think of them, try and like bring them to life in my own memory, and then just kind of sit with that for a while. And I'll probably do a candle, dress some herbs and some of my solid blend herbs, and burn that as I'm doing it to try and like call out to them.
Extend a hand.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
That's really beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What else are you like thinking about? Like,
not necessarily witchcrafty, but like crafty things.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange because normally around this time of the year, I'm starting to think about house gifts and things, moving all the way up through Yule and through New Year's, of what I can create to bring to other people. But it's kind of weird because now it's like, how much of that are we going to have, you know?
Yeah.
So normally this time of year, I'm starting the cranberry cordial. I am thinking about what I'm going to bake. So cookies. I tried making French macaroons one year.
Did you?
That was a disaster. It went very badly, very poorly. But it was also like very early into my foray of baking.
Yeah.
And I did not have enough experience.
I think you should try it again.
They're tricky.
I
should try it again.
You should. And I know, like, my mom loves to bake. She bakes a lot. And she's even said that they're very hard to make.
Yeah.
So I think
they're delicate.
That was very brave of you to try. I've always wanted.
Very ambitious.
Yeah, like I've always wanted to try making them myself.
Yeah.
But I'm scared.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
So I think I love that idea.
But yeah, normally it's like thinking about what can I do to spread some love to the people around me. But it's like, that's limited these days, it's limited from a tangible aspect.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely still making cranberry cordial. I know you are too.
Yep.
We'll just get litty titty off of it by ourselves if we
100p.
have to.
We'll just be getting shit-faced on cranberry cordial.
But yeah, it's like I'm having to constantly reel myself back in what my normal processes are this time of year. It's like, is it going to be an option?
What it has been before.
Yeah. But then that makes me sad to think about. I'm like, honestly, it may be better to really, because this time of the year is supposed to be about like that solitude and that inner growth, and normally for me and what I do in my muggle work, it is the busiest time of the year for me.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't get to slow down, you know? So maybe it'll be even better, even though we can't go to everybody's houses and go to all these different parties. We really have to like actually be in that like pure solitary state.
Yeah. And I agree. And like, we can still, use Samhain as our starting point, like for one, shadow work, but two, like getting ready for Yule. So like cranberry cordial is something that we're wanting to get ready for Yule, planning for our next update. What herbs do we want to work with for Yule? All that kind of stuff. We can still do that. It's gonna be different this year than what it has been.
Yeah.
Usually personally, I like to have a lot of my friends over and have a Yule gathering. And that's always what I've done every year. This year, it's not gonna be that. It can't be that.
Yeah.
So we are going to probably be crafting, gifts that we would normally give away in those types of events. And we'll be doing house drop-offs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can still use that time.
Yeah.
To work on ourselves. And it's going to take away a lot of that stress that you have when planning a gathering and making sure, like, what does this person eat? What does this person eat? Am I going to have everything I need? And you take that out completely and just focus on yourself.
Solitary celebration.
Exactly.
Yeah. What other, like, crafty crafts are you?
So, crafty crafts, Samhain, of course. It always comes back to food.
It really does. It really does, though.
I love to roast pumpkin seeds on Samhain. Yes. gifts. Yeah. Roast those babies in the oven. You can even give those away as gifts, actually. Yeah. Tie them up in a little bag. But working with pumpkin seeds, I want to actually keep some pumpkin seeds this year to use like next year, not to eat, but to use in my practice. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a rebirth kind of thought. So I'll be keeping like a separate little jar of those to use in like solid magic next year. Just rebirth from last year into this next period.
The passing of the torch. I love the passing of the torch.
I know. It's so like, it's so romanticized, but at the same time, like I love.
It's cyclical. It's what life is.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we're cyclical beings. Yeah. So of course, why wouldn't our practice also be cyclical? What about you? What do you?
I just started thinking, we're lucky in North Carolina that we live in a place that we can grow 365 days of the year.
Yeah, we can.
Like, we can grow all year round. And this will be one of the first years, or the first year that I'm growing in ground heavily.
Yes.
Normally I go all out for spring garden, and I'll grow like a few little things that are just hardy over the winter, but we're doing actual like sustainable food stuffs. Sustainable lightly, because we still live in the city in an apartment, so not that much space, but I've already put in a lot of seeds that are starting to come to fruition.
Yeah, they are.
So not to go back to plants, but
plant witches.
What I love. That's what I love. So I also want to do some work with elemental, but like elemental not in necessarily earth, elemental in like elemental spirits.
Yeah.
Like brownies.
Yeah.
Like things like hearth and home connection.
Yeah.
Protection for my garden space. Bringing my garden space more into my actual home, and kind of bridging that gap of creating this
that works within each other.
Integration is what I keep thinking. Yeah. I very much separate parts of my practices, and I'm trying to get to a place that I can see my practice as one thing wholly, you know?
Yeah. Instead of pieces of you. Yes. Like a whole piece of, like a whole thing.
And that's where I'm feeling like in myself right now, is this, I've spent so much of my life, like, I do this thing, I do this thing, I do that thing, I do this thing, but it's like, right now I feel the most like, not together, because maybe not, but the most integrated.
Yeah,
I don't know
integrated.
why that word keeps coming up, but I feel the most integrated I've ever felt. Yeah. And so I want that to be reflected in what I do.
Yeah. That totally
like I just
makes
went
sense.
on a wild tangent.
No, and the hearth flame went off crazy when you started talking about that. Yeah.
Oh, I see you.
Yeah, she's here.
Yeah.
She's here. Going off of that, one thing I really want to do this year, and I'll probably do it for Samhain, like probably the week coming up from Samhain, is I want to create a fairy house outside in my little baby garden. Yeah. And I'll obviously because I'm planning on staying here through end of summer next year.
Yeah.
And then hopefully moving on to a house on my own so that I can have a full garden instead of this pot garden that I've got. Shouldn't say that. Garden of pots.
It's still a great garden of pots. It's a glorious garden of pots.
It's a glorious garden of pots. But I want to have a little fairy house out there. And I want to have it ready for Samhain.
Yeah.
So, because fairies are very prevalent on Samhain night, because the veil is thin. So I want them to have a little home where they can come and see. And that's where I'm going to put their little offering, is by the fairy house.
So I actually want to talk to you at a later point more about Fae, because I actually just went back and listened to one of New World Witchery's episodes that they did talking about Irish culture and a specific focus on Fae lore, etc., etc. I personally don't know a lot about Fae. I feel more comfortable with like the house spirits, type of thing. But I think that's beautiful, and also like I just want to learn more from you about that subject. Yeah. Like I'm so intrigued by it, and I know it's something.
I've always had a strange connection with the Fae. I don't know why. I don't know why I have. I mean, a big part of it is probably the Morrigan, because she's, one of the queens of the Fae.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was like 17, my mom and I went to this little like shop that's like near where she lives, and they like sell wine and like a bunch of other like random little things, and they had this sign on the front that said "Don't piss off the fairies," and I was like, I need that. Yeah. And my mom got it for me and gave it to me from like my 18th birthday. Yeah,
the one that's out there.
Yeah. Aww. Yeah, I will never get rid of that. It's like a really beautiful memory because you don't piss off the fae.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. But yeah, I've always had like a really strange connection with them. And I want it to be a bigger part of my practice because so far it hasn't been a huge part of my practice. Like, I'm aware of them, but I've never actually tried to communicate with them because they are so tricky, very mischievous. And I haven't tried to make them a part of my practice. And I really want to start integrating that this year more, like me in my practice. Yeah.
And teach us.
Teach us all.
Tori's going to teach us. Teach us about the faith. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I need to figure out how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start looking at shit.
Yeah.
I need some wood, I think.
Some wood.
Some wood.
I need some wood.
I need some wood. One thing that we haven't mentioned that we have been working on, we started working on yesterday.
Yes.
We did start working on it. Was a day. We have started making dresses for Samhain.
Sewing dresses.
Boom, boom, boom. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I can talk about, for me, I wanted to make something special for Samhain. Like we said in the first episode, or I said in the first episode, I wanted to learn how to connect more with ancestral spirits outside of like personal connections that I've had in my life. So I'm making, it's a very, I don't know, I would say late 16th century, early 17th century dress. Using the idea that we discussed in the first episode of like aspecting of like that, and not ornate, very much like practical, just like I was saying earlier, like I'm focusing on the integration of the practicality of my practice and of my life, you know? And so my inspiration for my dress was this practical working dress to do the work that day, to do the cooking, to do the tending of the home, to do the tending of the garden, to prepare the meals, to, you know, serve dumb supper. And that's just what I'm trying to aspect during that time. So what better way than in a time where everything was made by hand and was created for a purpose. You know, it's like you didn't have dresses, a different dress for every day of the week. You had like specific dresses for specific purposes. So that was kind of my thought process in my dress. Tell me about yours.
So for me, I've always wanted to be able to sew myself clothing, and I've never been able. Not that I shouldn't say I've never been able. I've never attempted to because I've been too anxious and scared that I'm gonna fuck it up. Fuck it up. So I am working on this project. For me, I really wanted a dress that spoke of Samhain to me. Like I wanted it to be kind of similar to you, not something that's over the top and ridiculous and crazy. I wanted it to be something that I feel like my ancestors would have worn hundreds of years ago. Something practical that I can move around and work in. Not something that's extremely over the top, like going to a ball costuming kind of dress. But for me, like I wanted it to be something that I could move around in, something I was comfortable in, and something that I felt connected to the people that came before me in. And so that's what I chose, and that's what I started working on yesterday. Wasn't a great time so far. But we are hopeful it will get better from here.
I don't think Tori believed me when I told her how long it takes to sew a whole project like that.
Wow, it takes a long time.
Yeah, it takes a long time. She's got it. She gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Yesterday was spent, Alyssa was working on her jacket, part of her dress, and I was very industriously crawling around the floor, cutting out pieces of fabric.
And let's just say, to be fair, I do not have a good setup. I have a rug on the floor that we lay out the fabric and crawl around on the rug to cut the pattern out.
So
you did some work there.
But I did, but it would have been the same thing here.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is I have a point of reference because my mother is Martha Stewart of all things. And I can just see her in her, she literally has a room of sewing. It is her sewing room.
Yes.
It is just for her crafts and for her sewing. And he has a huge island table set up in there with those cutting boards, the big ones with a rotary blade. And I just saw myself like, this just would have worked. But even then, when I think about how big my pieces were, I still would have been on the floor.
Yeah.
It was just, I just have really big pieces for my project. But we got all the grunt work done yesterday for mine. And now it's just going to be
stitching it
just
together.
Stitching. Yeah. Just some witching stitching is going to be what?
Witching and stitching.
Witching and stitching. But I'm really excited about it. I am really excited about it. I think it's going to turn out really good. I think I just need to be patient. And I think that is actually a really good project for me to have right now.
Yes.
Just to work on my patience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to be good at everything. And I just need to let go a little bit and understand that I'm just not going to be great at everything. And that there is a learning process for everything. And of course, I'm not going to immediately pick up a dress pattern and be like, I know what I'm doing.
What are all these symbols and words?
Yeah, I was like, what? Alyssa, help. What? And she was like, oh, you can work on it on your own. I'll just bring the sewing machine over there. I'm like, no, I need you to sit next to me. What are you talking about? But I will figure it out. And I do want this to be a part of my practice.
And it's going to be so satisfying when you've made something so special. So special. So special for not only an important day, but an important part of your practice.
Yeah.
And feeling like we're always talking about do the work, do the work, do the work. Quite literally, doing the work, Yeah. It's like doing the work is not pretty. It is you crawling around on the floor. It is you covered in cat hair and dirt and dust. It is painful. It is confusing. It is all of these things that we experience when we're learning how to do everyday human things. Yeah. That's the same thing that we have to go through internally. So I love that you mentioned that you noted on that. Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful metaphor for what this season is.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'll be pulling out every year.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that it's good. I want to put the work in to make sure it's good. Because it's going to be a standby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there anything else craft-worthy that you'd like to mention?
Poppets, but I just like making poppets.
Oh, I know.
I really like making
poppets.
Poppets.
And we had talked about, because you started soaking them yesterday.
Some corn husks.
Yeah. And I'd even mentioned, we could record us making poppets, but we've already done that. And I know poppets are a huge part.
I really do them twice a year. I do them here and I do them at Beltane. Yeah. And so I have that spring renewal, rebirth, and normally I plant it into the garden. In fall, I normally burn it. It's like a burning away, a shedding of the old flesh of who I was last year, because I really love and connect with what you were saying last episode, where it's the ending. It's not necessarily the shiny new penny. It is I'm releasing everything that happened, So normally in October for Samhain, I burn my poppet to let go of past things I've learned and to allow new Alyssa to rise in the flames like a phoenix.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Going off of that, we should probably talk about what we're planning on burning this year. Yeah. So for me, if it's something you want to talk about, for me, I'm going to burn my poppet from this year, but then I'm also going to burn, I've kept my wreaths that I had at my house, because I am waiting to burn them. So I'm going to burn them on Samhain. So I made wreaths at the house that I ended up selling with my ex. And I'm going to be burning those on Samhain to help release all of that energy out. Also the broom that you made me. I always like to burn my brooms on Samhain. So I'll be burning that. And I haven't even brought it into the home. They're in my car. So they've never...
past the threshold.
They never came past the threshold. So they've just been in my car.
Superstitious.
So I literally had them in my car. They've been in my car. They're never coming into this home. But I did not want to trash them. I wanted to burn them.
Yeah.
For Samhain. So.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. What about you? Is there anything else special?
No, actually no. Because when was the last time we went up to the cabin?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I was just in a burning mood, so I burned everything that I had to burn early.
Yeah.
I was just like done. I was in purge mode.
Was that July? That was July 4th.
I think it was July.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just needed to
purge it and
get rid of everything.
Yeah. I've had a few periods of burning this year.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
But I have my one wreath, like my big pentacle wreath that has the antlers on my door. That stays there all year. That does not get rotated.
Yeah.
So.
I'd really like to for Yule this year, and we'll probably talk more about this whenever we do our Yule episode. I really want to create something similar to that. Like, I've been wanting to make a wreath for my new house, but we haven't. Whenever Alyssa and I have been out looking at anything, I haven't found any
material.
Anything that's really called to me. But I really want to work on that for Yule, is having a beautiful like mainstay wreath. Whether it stays there forever or not, it may not. Maybe that comes whenever I buy my next home, and that's when I really create that. Yeah. But I really just want to make a wreath for this house so bad. It will come.
Oh, and we're gonna do some foraging too.
Yeah. So I'm hoping whenever we forage that I can find some good materials to work with. Yeah. Because I'd love to have a Samhain wreath, but now it's getting close to that time where I just don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything. Yeah. Maybe.
We're going to the mountains for my birthday next weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll find something
around the
out
woods.
there.
Yeah.
Because I would love to I just love having seasonal wreaths. I love making wreaths for every Sabbath. And I was really upset I couldn't make a maven wreath because I really wanted to make a maven wreath and I couldn't find anything. So hopefully next weekend we find things.
Yeah.
And I can make a Samhain wreath.
Yeah. Like and subscribe. It feels so awkward doing that.
I know.
Still. I don't know why it's not normal yet.
It will be. So guys, this is the end of our Samhain craft discussion.
Part 2.
We probably will not have another one. But who knows?
It would come out on Samhain.
Yeah, it probably would, so.
Oh, apple cider. Wait, there's so many things still. Okay, really, let's end it.
So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Our shop launches on the 15th, which is past this time because it's going to come out next weekend. So check it out if you haven't already.
And we got our first Zoom Hangout Sesh planned for October 24th.
October 24th for our Patreon. Yes. Bow.
So let's hang out and talk about the spooky season.
Yes.
And
it'll be the week before Samhain, so.
It's going to be lots of fun.
Yeah. Who knows what we'll be working on as we're Zooming.
Pure debauchery.
And drinking.
Debauchery. Yes.
Don't forget, like and subscribe. And leave a comment down below to join the conversation.
Tell us what you're making. Please.
Give us more ideas, because we don't have enough things to do, evidently.
Questionable. I think we have plenty of work.
We really do have plenty of work ahead of us. But,
yeah.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching.
Skål.
Skål.